when you look at a typical single detached dwelling, and we talked about these components and keeping costs and optimization in mind, what's that ideal net zero home looks like? So tell me if I'm correct on that. We're talking about an attic installation of probably R50 or R60, correct?
Yeah.
Are we going with effective R value of between R30 and R35 for the walls above grade?
Yeah. So honestly, this guy he does energy modeling because he's asking all the right questions. So he understands house construction.
We're going micro here, my friends, and none of this high level stuff. Okay, we're going into it.
When I do my energy simulations, it's all effectiveness, right? But when I consult to builders, I just use what they understand, which is nominal.
Use what you put into the wall.
R50, R60. So it depends who you talk to. I respond a little bit differently, but in general, it's whatever they understand.
Right.
But yes, we want to use effectiveness of the assembly to figure out how we can best achieve net zero target without breaking the bank. And there are very little inexpensive upgrades that you can do that has a huge impact.
Okay.
For example, air tightness.
No, but before we get to air tightness, let's make sure these guys, the new builders of ours, are there. Let's talk about insulation first. So attic, R50.
I'm going to say R60-ish is good.
Effective or nominal?
Nominal. That would be nominal, yeah.
For those of you who do not know what nominal versus effective is, nominal is what you buy from Home Depot, and that's the actual R value of the installation itself. And effective means what happens once I put this in that particular component, whether it's attic or walls, and then that insulation becomes in contact with other materials that do not have the same insulations. It leads into this phenomenon called thermal bridging, where heat loss occurs through conduction, and the R value goes lower. And if you're still with me, congratulations, you are a worthy opponent. You should undertake this responsibility. But so you're thinking R60 in the attic. And then what about your walls, Jack? Above grade walls. Tell me about those walls.
So there's two types of attic, right? There's the attic with an attic space, and there's the attic without the attic space.
Let's talk about attic with an attic space.
Yeah. Okay. So R60 is usually with a ratio truss is what I would say that's good enough. That would be my
R60
optimal.
with ratio trucks.
Yeah.
All right.
So ratio truss is to qualify for a ratio truss is minimum 10 inches at the eave length.
Okay. This is
10
good
inches.
Stuff. We have to nugget this stuff out and just make a video and send it to the builders.
I might put some of your viewers to sleep.
Don't
so
worry.
I apologize for that.
This episode of Building Science is brought to you by Tim Hortons. Keeps you up when you talk about building knowledge.
So that's something I would stick to. And then R31 is basically what I would do. For the slope, no more than
for the walls.
For the slope ceiling.
Okay, gotcha. I understood.
Yeah.
And then for the walls, effective R value, above grade walls.
So we can talk about effective R value, but I also like to focus on how to achieve that effective R value.
Sure.
Okay, so you mentioned XPS, which is extruded polystyrene, foam, right?
Yes.
Which is one of the options to get to a more energy efficient wall.
Yes.
But then there's EPS, there's expanded, right?
Yes.
And then there's rock wool, and then there's spray foam. There's so many other materials out there that you can get that continuous insulation.
Yes.
So out of those material, which one is more best bang for your buck? I'm gonna.
I don't know, Jack, but I'm dying over here. Why don't you tell me?
So you have to do an energy study. You gotta go through. You gotta hire somebody like Hamed, who knows how to do energy simulation.
Hire someone like Jack. Do not hire me.
Yeah, and then they'll look at your project and say, let's try different scenarios and put a cost to each upgrades. And if you go to Home Depot now, honestly, you're in the concrete business, so we know. A Jack goes to Home Depot to buy a bag of concrete is a different price than a Hamed goes to Home Depot and buy a bag of concrete. Very different.
All right.
But if a General Joe like Jack thinks that with the Home Depot cost, it's still cost effective, then a builder's cost would be even more cost effective.
Understood.
Because they have a much higher purchasing power. Okay. Maybe don't quote me on this, but I have seen price lists where a builder's price list and a Jack's price list is like 2/3 difference.
Okay.
Huge.
So I want to move forward with this, but do you think a batt insulation in a 2x6 frame combined with an XPS R5 outside gets you to that number.
Yeah, I have done houses, net zero homes that just with 1 inch exterior insulation makes it.
So the
it
R5
depends
on
the
the
house.
outside, and you got 2x6. Of
yeah.
course, there's other factors that factor
Yeah.
into. Let's talk about windows. So I think I pretty much know where you stand on windows.
Yeah.
You go with a double pane. You try to hit 1.3.
1.4,
1.4,
yeah.
and then you're looking at a solar heat gain of
0.3, between 0.3 and 0.4.
and that is sufficient enough to kind of get you on the net zero
We
path.
don't want overheating.
We don't want
Yeah.
overheating. I
And
think
if
that's
you-
the key
Yeah,
here.
we don't want overheating, and getting a 0.7 will give you a year rating of 34 or plus, but it's not good. If you take the earlier net zero training days, they have lessons learned, and you'll see like a patio door, and then the heartwood beside the patio door is all like discolored and because of the overheating. So
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's crazy. Like imagine that shining into you. You fell asleep there, like you would get a suntan instantly.
Oh my God.
So
Natural
overheating-
tanning machine. Okay.
Yeah. So that's one. So it's a comfort concern, right?
All right.
And so I'm not like I know some really good like passive house windows as well, like
Right.
But I wouldn't do that for not on a production level. I mean,
Yeah.
if they really have like if it's a really special condition, right? Then
So-
I would consider triple pane.
No problem. So before we get into the mechanical system, let's kind of quickly venture out into the basement. So do you recommend XPS installations on the slab?
I don't like XPS.
Okay,
You keep mentioning
sure.
XPS. I
Right.
like
Something tells me
insulation.
that you-
I
you-
like insulation under the slab. That's
Okay.
like wearing socks.
Absolutely.
Like, do you wear socks? I wear socks
I
today.
love.
So you should
sometimes I
wear
put a
so-
slipper on my socks.
2 pairs, right? When you go snowboarding. So yes, under slab insulation is definitely something I
what's
promote.
your go-to? Again, keeping cost and hitting the net zero in mind. What's your go-to slab installation?
I actually like EPS. If you haven't realized, I mentioned that quite a few times. EPS. That's the white stuff. That's like the
Get XPS out of your vocabulary, gentlemen.
no. There's different reasons for it.
It's actually more cost-effective than XPS.
It's 50% cheaper. That's why you gotta do that cost optimization.
I'm getting where Jack is going. Finally, it took an hour, but I'm getting where you're going now.
It's more cost effective, and it's
Okay.
only 1 hour less. So it's R4 compared to R5. But
I
guess
will
what?
never
Just
use
make
it.
it thicker.
Yes. Yeah, just make it thicker, and you'll be fine.
Right. 1 inch is not so great because it's really easy to break.
Right.
Builders hate it, and if there's a strong wind, it would just break off, and that's not good.
And then for the basement wall insulations, what combination of interior, exterior, or interior only or exterior only insulation do you recommend?
Cost is always
Yes,
a
sir.
concern, right?
Yes.
So just R20 blanket, full height. Don't leave a gap.
R20 blanket.
So right now, the Ontario Building Code allows a 8-inch gap between the top of your slab to your blanket.
Right.
And the reason is because they feel that the moisture that you do concrete, so you know
Yes,
how
sir.
much liters you add into the concrete for it to mix.
Oh my God, I don't know.
Too many.
So
right?
much. So
yeah,
much.
So
Like, there's
it takes 5 years to achieve
5 to
equilibrium.
7 years
Five-
for that.
okay,
For
5
that.
to 7 years.
You know what we do? Like home builders, they actually provide a dehumidifier and they give it as a gift because they don't want to cover the warranty
Yeah,
costs on it
yeah.
to every new home.
Yeah, so my ex-boss said that that's the diaper wrap because it traps moisture and the fiberglass just soaks it up,
is
right?
totally a diaper
just
wrap.
like a diaper wrap. Okay, but regardless, the effectiveness of that R20 blanket is still R20.
Yes.
Whether you use XPS, EPS, rock wool, spray foam, R20 is R20.
Is there benefits of doing an exterior installation than interior?
Yeah.
Okay, but you're talking about just putting an R20 bat
Yeah,
inside.
that would be the most cost effective. No, R20 blanket.
R20, sorry, my
blanket,
apologies.
yeah.
R20 blank. And then
Yeah.
are you foaming the headers?
I would recommend that. That would be a great thing to do because that's the one place where you have the most penetration
Yeah.
in the house.
The headers, exposed floors. I would think,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and if you have those odd instances of having a cold room underneath the garage, I
That's
would say,
correct.
I would recommend doing that too. So yeah, we're definitely see eye to eye on that one. Okay, that's pretty much insulation in a nutshell.